Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I have the absolute pleasure and privilege of introducing Cirak. This amazing man is a super well renowned spiritual teacher, author, and public speaker. He hosts his own worldwide retreats, integrating ancient teachings into global experiences. He has written four super influential books on meditation, spirituality, God, and mindfulness, with apparently two more on the way. And I really want to say your books are incredible. I know when I start running my teacher trainings next year, they are definitely going to be in the required readings. So welcome.
Thank you. Great pleasure being here, Ash.
So nice to have you. And there's so much I am excited to talk to you about within the realm of spirituality, meditation, and mindfulness, all your areas of expertise. But I actually want to start this conversation a little differently. I want to begin with the end in mind,
Hmm,
almost like
right.
planting a seed for those listening of what is to come. So at the end of this episode, after being exposed to you and your teachings, what is it you hope people walk away with? Or rather, what is the main message of everything you hope to share within this field that you dedicate so much of your life to?
Yes, great question. So
Mm.
essentially, I call it the design of life, the secret design of life. Um, you know, I'm not one to tell people to just play by the rules blindly. And I certainly haven't in my life, but there is a way that we thrive, and there's a way we don't thrive. And the feedback is instant too, is through sensations and other ways which we'll talk about. But is to recognize and play by these rules, the playbook, take that to heart. And a lot of that is resistance. We'll get into those things as well.
Mm.
And the idea of self, so ultimately thinning, if not dissolving entirely, the sense of self, which tends to get in the way and create a lot of that friction that we experience. But ultimately, it's very simple. Life is designed to be simple. It wants us to be whole. It doesn't want us to be suffering. In fact, every time we feel annoyed or triggered, it's because we're we're being asked to come out of our limiting beliefs. We're being
Mm.
asked to go deeper and release the layers. So that's in large part the system that we're in, and to start to embrace that and be the student and see life as a teacher and a mirror that can it can accelerate things great.
Yeah, life as a teacher in a mirror. I love that. And I mean, there's so many big topics I want to dive into with you. I want to start with thoughts. In your book, in one of your books, you point out that thoughts are not solid and reliable and actually hold very little truth whatsoever. And yet, for most of us, most of our life, we live completely dominated by the thinking function of our mind, convinced and bound to and identified with all our thoughts, unable, to break
Mm.
the kind of seductive and all consuming spells they cast. And I guess, firstly, what is a thought? Or what is the
Mm.
nature of a thought? And in your opinion, where do thoughts come from?
All right,
Yeah.
diving straight in. Um, I often bring up the analogy of the story of Adam and Eve, which is essentially
Mm.
a parable of living in paradise. You have everything provided for as long as you're in unison with source, and then they eat from the tree of knowledge, and they get up in their heads and they start thinking, start questioning, and then they get expelled from heaven. And so that's essentially what happens to us: is if we are too much in our head, the head has its purposes. It's designed for organizational, practical matters. It's designed for information gathering, for analytics, and then executing. But the part that's us, what's our truth, what's right for us, it doesn't know us. It's not like it's some separate entity that has some intelligence over us. It's a tool that we use. So if we
Mm.
task it with trying to figure out our life and what's right for us, it does the best it can. But that's when we suffer from choice overload and analysis paralysis. And again,
Mm.
those are sensations that we can very quickly we become attuned to. Oh, I'm feeling the overload. I'm feeling the creative block. I'm starting to doubt and question. These are all symptoms that we're in our head. It's not a problem. We're not a problem that we need to fix. It's just noticing what place are we living from. And when we're too much in our head, then the suffering starts. Um, as in terms of where thoughts come from, part of that is overthinking. The key to recognizing thoughts is that you can be right now, everyone listening can be aware of a thought. Okay, just wait a few seconds and there's a thought. So we can all be aware of thoughts, which
Mm.
means we're not our thoughts. Same thing for feelings. We can feel sensations in our body. So we're not our thoughts and feelings. It's when we identify with them, when we really attach ourselves and believe them, make them our whole reality, then our world shrinks. We get anxious, we get small, we lose connection with source, and we're no longer in the flow. I mean, everything bogs down and we suffer. And again, the suffering is intended to wake us up to come back to our center, to apply what are basically very simple techniques to breath is at the center of that, but
Mm.
using our senses, everything we're we're designed to see what we're seeing, hear what we're hearing, taste what we're tasting, smell what we're smelling. If we truly engage with our senses, it pulls us into the present moment. If we filter everything through our narrative and judgment and stories, then it gets complicated. But if we, through some practice, just like going to the gym, we have an awareness muscle. And if we can nurture that awareness muscle, initially through meditation, but then eventually everything is meditation, it's your natural state, then life just like pulls us into it. And
Mm.
we get to experience the physical form while, from a place of awareness. So
Yeah.
that was a lot.
No, it's great. And I guess it's like because thoughts happen up in our head, we just give them more importance than we should. And also because they speak in the same language we do, So they sound so convincing. Whereas we don't get so
Mm.
confused by a sensation in the body because the body speaks in sensations and the heart in emotions. But thoughts, straight away, we
That's a good,
feel.
yeah, that's a good point. I attribute that to everyone. There's my new book is called Old Soul, Young Soul, and everyone, the Buddha and Jesus, everyone had to go through like a trial and error, the becoming infatuated with the physical dimension, the losing yourself in the stuff, in the
Mm,
lights and the colors and the variations and all of that. And the only difference, an older soul who has worked through some karma, is they're able to move through that more quickly. And so it's totally understandable that initially we just get enamored with these thoughts and then throw in some conditioning that is really, you know, we live in a world that is designed to elicit reactions from us, right, wrong, good
mm.
and bad, for me, against me, believe us, don't believe them, this constant noise, and we're keeping ourselves in our head through constant reactivity. So it's, you have to develop some awareness around that, and change your environment and lifestyle to 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 detach from that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. What does it mean to be identified with thought? Because I think this is something we hear a lot, but to actually grasp the concept and internalize it is so difficult because we've enabled it for so long. Like most people
Mm,
probably can't imagine an existence no longer dominated by this constant, endless stream of thinking running the show. How do you
mm,
help people to?
yeah.
Mm,
So there's great question. There are some thoughts where that doesn't happen, right? There might be a thought
mm.
about, well, I don't know, the bus driving by. Literally, a bus just drove by, and I just thought of that. And it's like it doesn't stick. You don't get lost in that. I'm like, oh my gosh, where's that bus going? And what is the driver thinking? And I mean, it's just a thought came and went. But there are other thoughts that carry a bigger charge, and then that charge, trauma, upbringing stuff, and baggage, and most of our stuff is not actually our own. It's what we've inherited from our environment, and those really pull us into them. And so, thinking of identification with thought as like believing it, having there be no gap, which is the way it's often described, between the thought appearing and your awareness of it. So you just get pulled right into it, and you become the thought. Everything else gets blocked out. That's the only thing that exists when you really identify with the thought. And that's where past and future exists. That's where control comes into play, and a prediction, and all of that
Yeah,
stuff. Fear, that's where fear lives.
yeah,
So yeah, so some things are stickier than
yeah,
than others, but using that as an example, you can see that there's degrees of identification with thought, the degrees of attachment and detachment. So I always say start with small weights. If you're
yeah.
a beginner, beginning meditation practice, or
Mm,
yoga, or walking in the woods, and to be with yourself and your thoughts.
yeah,
Don't pick something that elicits some big reaction from you. That's like going to the
yeah.
gym and bench
The
bench
most
pressing.
triggering thing.
Yeah, exactly. But just pick small ways, something that is a little mildly annoying, and just
Yeah,
observe that relationship with that thought.
yeah. I want to read a few lines from your book on this topic because you say it so well. You say, "You don't know yourself outside of this constant entanglement with thought. You think your value to society is based on how well you can think. Then you try to find yourself somewhere in all this thinking activity. The question to follow: what is the first step in disentangling thought from self in order to find a concept of self outside of all this thinking?
Yeah. The simplest technique and the most powerful technique is anapanasati. It's just
Mm,
breath awareness.
from
And
Vipassana.
from Vipassana, and Ram Dass, after trying every drug on the planet, even at the end of his life, he said, "This is all you need." Um, and it creates it has multiple purposes, but it creates, first of all, that um, awareness of when your mind drifts, and that when you notice it's drifted, that you learn to accept that and not react
Yes.
to it, because that's a
Yes.
microcosm of what happens in the macro all day long. You see a situation, it's not the way you want it, and we want it to be different. We react. So you can practice this again using small weight on just when your mind drifts and you've noticed, like, do you react with frustration? Why can't I stay focused? My mind is all over the place. Or do you just accept? My mind is not where I want it to be. Bring it back to where you do want it to be, breath. Or you can use a finger or a candle or a leaf on a tree. So there's many different ways,
Mm,
and that will create that, I just call it thought awareness, and it will also instill a sense of impermanence, of Aniche, this ongoing, the continuity of life. That when you actually allow your thoughts to be, that they leave you again, and every thought has a related sensation of feeling, that you also experience that along the way, is like, oh, my feelings also, when they arise, and if I just let them be, they also pass. And so you start
yes.
to feel more and more and more. It's very gradual, but more and more
Mm,
you just get a sense for, like, there's no reason to get upset about anything. There's no reason to isolate one moment, blow it up into some big drama or disaster, or make it more than it really is, but rather just, okay, this is what it is right now. Let's see what happens next. The next moment, the next moment, and now you find yourself in the flow. Now insights come. You're part of the greater current, and life gets a lot easier.
yeah. You say it so well. And I'm going to continue to quote you, even though you're right here, because you say so many great things in your book. But one of them, questioning your thoughts is like poking a hole in the balloon of your beliefs and watching them pop. It's so good.
Yeah, I have a whole list of what I call thought balloons. I sometimes, in different workshops, I put it up on the screen. There's certain, because my whole thing is spirituality doesn't have to be woo woo. It's just a name, and let's
Yes.
discard that name even, and look at it. Most of these things you can very rationally look at and recognize that I can't predict the future. Why do I keep planning, like, my life, 1 year plan, 5 year plan? But has your life gone according to plan until now? No. So why do you keep doing it? That's just a very common sense kind of observation. Um, Other things are this setting yourself an outcome, a goal that once you reach it, you'll be happy, you'll be
Yeah.
complete. You can't know today what will make you happy tomorrow. It's just you're who
Yes.
you are today, and what will make you happy today, But a year from now or 5 years, you'll be a different person, and hopefully you live in alignment with that person then. But
Mm,
this setting oneself up to make a plan and compare everything that happens along the way to your version of life. This is the main source of struggle and suffering. And then even if somehow you reach the goal, which most of the time life takes a detour anyway, but even then the satisfaction only lasts for so long. It's the
because you're a
outer,
completely different person when you arrive.
completely different person. I'm like, oh, I achieved this now. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I actually had to evolve. This is a great point you bring up. I actually had to evolve myself to get to that point where I can achieve the thing, and the journey became the accomplishment. And then it's a little icing on the cake, maybe, to see, oh, now I have a statue or a title or whatever. But that's not actually what fulfills you. It was getting there. And so once again, the journey is the thing to focus on.
Yeah. And okay, I want to ask you a question about the mind. And I love asking this to guests because I find it really fascinating. Through your lens, what is the mind?
So mind is really just a collection of thoughts, and especially ones that you keep believing. I like what I think Joe Dispenza says: belief is just a thought you keep thinking, and that's all it is. It's just repetition and certain patterns. Again, most of them are not your own. Carl Jung said most of our issues are the unlived life of our parents. So
Mm,
we find ourselves as a station in life where, for some reason or another, we feel called to bring an end to the blind repetition of patterns of generations and generations. And everyone, if you go back far enough, everyone has war trauma or abuse or all kinds of things that have happened over um, centuries. And epigenetics shows how this is just being passed along. So the good news is, those of us here, even listening just to this, there's something different about you. There's I call it the black sheep phenomenon, is that something in you says the buck stops here. I'm no longer willing to repeat blind patterns. And that's a hard calling initially, but once the seed of lights, takes hold, you can't turn back anymore.
mm, mm. In your book, you say the mind is motivated by fear and lack and control. And so I guess to live dominated by the mind, therefore, is to live dominated by fear and lack and the futile search for control. And, we see this so much in the way modern society operates. But of course, the mind is not evil, nor is it something we can avoid dealing with or having to confront. And, whether we like it or not, we all have to develop some kind of relationship with the mind. And with the rise of, mental health conditions so prevalent, how do you help people to live in harmony with the power of the mind, to see it as
Mm.
something that works for us, not against us?
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. The simple explanation is to use it for what it's designed for and not for what it's not. Just the origin not too long ago, the world was much more dangerous, and essentially the mind is over time evolved to keep us safe, and so it's looking for danger. And fortunately today it's not like there's a lion or a tiger hovering around every corner, but it's still designed to look for danger. And so it just, if we're tasking it to guide us through life, it's just going to look for things that could go wrong, things that there's a threat, and your whole outlook shifts when that's the lens through which you live. So again, greater awareness around I'm in my head. Um,
Mm,
these are like a common question I get is, for example, how can I tell the difference between manifesting and controlling? Like
mm.
where's that line,
Where's the
right?
line? Yeah.
Yeah. And I go, well, how does it feel when you're truly manifesting and you're expansive and you're seeing yourself, you're in a great state, you're in the flow, you're proud of what you know, or whatever it is, that feels a certain way. And then once you start projecting, oh, what if this happens? What if that, that doesn't pan out? What if I wind up alone? All this, that feels a different way. So again, connectedness with your body and your sensations. It's this one-to-one instant guidance system that we have. You don't have to wait for Judgment Day. If you're in alignment with Source, with your higher self, with the flow, with um, possibilities, with inspiration, it feels a certain way. It feels good, right? You get rewarded for that, staying in that state. And as soon as you start questioning and doubting and getting small and shrinking and controlling, and yeah, lack, fear, and control are the main categories there,
Yeah.
then life gets hard. And sometimes I get, funny looks when I say this. Most of our journey, most people manifest from this fear, lack, and control, and that's not a bad
Mm.
thing. It's just that's how we're designed to work. If not this lifetime, it was a previous lifetime that I did the same way, or early in my career, I lived the same way, just looking for that outcome. And
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing, right? It's when that moment then arrives and the kids don't love you the way you thought they would love you and make you complete. Your partner doesn't, complete you. The job, the money, the house, all those things, were short-lived, and now what? It's the surrender to that situation, to the reality of that softens you and deepens you. I
Mm.
call this the middle path. So
Yeah.
everyone, regardless of spiritual inclination or self-help interest, is going to experience life this way. Now, those who have a little more wisdom and awareness under their belt, and they can see that, and they can no longer have to manifest big situations that can take up decades of your life, and
Yeah.
and then only to realize that I can't find my complete self in that end result, but rather, I'm going to have to relent and let go. Some people actually keep fighting and resisting, and that's really hard. But most people
Yeah.
just they soften up, they deepen through the relaxation and letting go of their expectations.
Yeah, it's pretty unsustainable to play in the world of extremes.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. But with a little, listening to podcasts like this and reading books and being part of that community,
Yeah.
you can avoid some of these bigger pitfalls. So the fact that you're listening to this or part of a community is already sign enough that your your karma has
On the
put you in a
way.
good place. Yeah, you're on the way.
Yes.
Yes.
What do you see as the function of meditation in all of this? And maybe asking what is meditation is a good place to start. Yeah, the way you share it. I'm curious because some people have big blocks when they hear meditation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Meditation is our natural state, and it's only a name that describes a state because it's so unnatural the
Yes.
way we're all raised, and most of us, and so we have to find back to our natural state. Ultimately, I talk about awareness muscles. So just like going to the gym, you meditate on a cushion or whatever, and you feel like that's a separate activity from the rest of your life. Gradually over time, you don't drop your muscles when you leave the gym. You take them with you into the rest of life, right? So same thing with the awareness muscle. You start to infuse everything you do in life. You bring that into your relationships, into your workplace, and into everywhere you go. That's the light of your awareness, and that will just become more and more the norm. And then it's no longer there's no longer a separate meditation practice, other than if you really want, I don't know, want some kind of boost, you want to go spend 2 weeks with the monks in Thailand or something like that. It's still helpful. We're
Mm,
never complete. You can't assume that we're above, you know, better self care in this regards. It's always good to do those things, but more and more your life is you're in service, not living for yourself as much.
mm,
And again, that's part of the beautiful design. In the beginning, you're all about me, me, me. I got to figure myself out. And then when
yes.
you've worked through things, you've released those layers, and you naturally open up. People come to you, they seek you for
Mm,
advice. You become a role model, and they want you around them.
mm.
And because you help them touch what they're looking for in themselves.
I love how you say meditation is our natural state. And we've just been pulled so far away from that natural state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Part of that is also the we have to lose ourselves in order to find ourselves. So it's
Yeah.
again the design of life. If everything was just perfect, there'd be no life. If we just arrived here and everyone's
Yes.
at peace and calm, there's no fights
Yeah.
or friction in our
So
minds or
Adam and Eve
anything.
had to eat the apple.
You have to eat the apple. And so again, recognizing that can take a lot of the pressure off that we put on ourselves for not being perfect and kind of like I need to get somewhere to fix myself. Um, we'll get there. I always say enlightenment is the byproduct of meditation, but you don't get there by wanting to be there. You get there by wanting to be here, learning to
Yes.
be you, love yourself now
Yeah.
as you are. And that acceptance actually moves you forward. It's a struggle
I
for the mind. Acceptance, oh, I'm going to be like this forever. No, no, no. You accept to disentangle your energy so that you can
mm,
actually move forward.
yeah. And you say ultimately meditation is not for enlightenment, it's for your nervous system.
Yes, 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 yes. That's it. It's literally a nervous system um, question of how can I come out of reactivity? And I see people gradually over life, they get to the point where they recognize, why am I so reactive? Why can't I stop this? This it's just your reactivity is so inflamed that the moment something triggers you, you go into instant reactivity. And so even when you know that, it's you need some kind of practice to calm and come out of that reactivity, and that's where meditation helps initially, and
Yeah.
then you take that from it.
Yeah. And you've spoken so much about acceptance, and you also are really great at dispelling all the spiritual paradoxes. I'm going to read one that you've got. We don't calm our mind by wanting it to be calm. We calm our mind by accepting it's busy. The more we accept what is happening in our thoughts, the more we can accept what is happening in reality. And these two sentences, they're so powerful. There's so much we could unpack in those two sentences alone.
Yeah, acceptance. Excuse me. It's one of the key pillars of kind of coming out of our self-identified state. And the key there is to think of it not as mental acrobatics that you're somehow reframing how you're thinking or positive thinking. It has nothing, it's not related to the mind. Acceptance is related to how you feel about something,
Mhm,
accepting your feelings about the situations. Acceptance. And when you can
mm,
accept this is how I feel, those feelings leave you. They don't become stuck energy and then layers and layers pile up and then we become this jumbled, bumbled, reactive not, but rather we allow life to flow through us. And then we realize that most of our reactivity, we think the experience we had was, you know, our feelings, but it's actually 95% reactivity to the feeling, which is the much, much, much smaller part, which is like 5%. So all those feelings that we were afraid of feeling that we keep pushing down because we think they're so big and scary, when you can allow them to through observation and again from this practice, you'll recognize very quickly like, oh my gosh, my feelings are very manageable here to communicate wisdom. If I allow them to arise and pass, they leave behind some golden nugget of should I pursue something because it resonates? Should I leave this alone? It doesn't resonate. It's our guidance system. But the reaction to the feeling, that's the big part that we have control over that we can drop. That was the gift
yeah.
of the Buddha, really, to discover. He actually rediscovered this technique.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, people listening might think it's easy to accept when things are going well, but, how to live according to this when, they aren't.
Yes. Ultimately, that's when life gets fun, is when you can see that the next challenge is here to deepen you. And you can
Yeah.
recognize this as a mirror. We're all only projecting ourselves onto people, places, and things around us. We're always only experiencing ourselves.
Yeah.
That's it.
We
So,
don't
what
see
does
the
it say
world
about me?
as it is, we experience it as we are, right?
Yes, 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 yes,
Yes.
exactly. And those are the five levels, right? In the initial
Yes.
level one phase is life is happening to us. We're in victim state, where we feel separate from everything. And then we move into what's happening because of us. So we start to see a connection between how we see things and how we react to things that impacts how we then experience them. Then we move
Yes.
into, well, if life is really a mirror, then it's happening for me to discover myself and realize who I am. And then even after that, there's the flow phase. Life is happening through you, and the sense of self has become really thin. You're no resistance. You're allowing yourself to be taken by the greater current. And then level five is the life is happening as you, the no self state.
It's so brilliant how you help people map that consciousness experience. And by the way, for people listening, Cirak is referring to his book, The Five Levels of Awareness. And it is so brilliant. And I definitely want to double click that and kind of talk about each layer. First, I want to ask a question about presence because you speak about presence being foreign to the mind. And I
Mm.
love that you say this because I feel like most people think they need to use their mind to be present. Could you speak about the relationship between present moment awareness and the mind?
Yeah. Essentially, everything that we believe becomes a component of our reality. And it's partly conditioning, partly media, culture, all of this contributes to a handful of beliefs that we now think of, I call it our truth structure. And then we try to see the world through this truth structure. We have a
Mm,
control grid that we navigate from. And um, the the limitation of that is like every I say every belief is a limiting belief because everything is possible initially, and then here we come along, little me, and I'm gonna start believing this, and this, and this, and now I'm going to try and find myself in these handful of slivers of truth, and then I get upset that things are so slow and limited, and who am I? And so that's what happens when we live through the mind, and to live from the body and then utilize the mind when appropriate. That is the key.
yeah, it's so good. You make it all sound so simple.
Well, we've been taught, right? As a society, we've somehow gotten away from the idea that we can trust our thoughts, our
Yes.
feelings. We think we can
Yes.
only trust our thoughts, and I don't know when that happened,
Yeah.
but it's in all of us, and it's like let's get back to our feeling state, and um, you can feel when somebody who's super negative, they've had a bad day when they walk into the room. Everyone can feel like, oh, that's they got
Mm,
negative energy, right? That's energy awareness. You can also sense when somebody who's super dapper and excited and inspired walks into the room. So those are more obvious examples of energy awareness because that's what awareness ultimately is, the ability to
yeah.
read energy, navigate from energy.
Mm,
but
Mm.
the whole spectrum exists, right? From all degrees of energy. And there's
Yeah.
other words that really feed into that, such as empathy and compassion and reading between the lines, or understanding somebody's motivation. They're all pointing to the same place. That it's not the surface words. They don't mean
Yeah.
anything. You got to understand, where are they coming from when they say this? What is their need? This is advanced, but when you can recognize the experience someone is seeking to have,
Mm.
so recognize what they're coming to. They're coming to you. They're wanting to feel heard. They're wanting to feel seen. They're wanting, maybe it's purely practical too, but whatever it is, if you can tune into that, and that requires no self, and you can't be judging them from your what you think is happening, and you can really tune into them, then you're a co-creator, and you're a facilitator. You're helping the unfolding of the situation, not just from me, but from what's wanting to happen here for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's when your light really starts to shine.
It's so beautiful. And you amplify the light of others.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
exactly.
beautiful. And ultimately, I guess what we want to feel is our intuition. And I always like to describe the intuition as our cosmic Google Maps or internal navigation system. And I've heard you describe it as our primary guiding system. But for so many people, it's not primary. And in your book, you again say it so well. And I wrote down the line: we live in a world that amplifies our mind and relegates our intuition. How does our
Yeah,
intuition get blocked? And what's the follow on effect of that?
yeah. It gets blocked. There's no innumerous behaviors. People pleasing, or the way we pine for love from, say, our
Mm,
parents. They, reward certain behavior, and then we, in order to gain their affection or their attention, then we start acting a certain way. It's just, we get covered up. Our intuition just gets pushed down further and further and further, and then we enter education systems. Most of them
uh,
are always about the next milestone, the next graduation, and so forth. They just get rushed along through this whole uh, life, and
yeah.
it never ends. And so it's up to us to find a pause. And it usually happens when we hit rock bottom, or ill health or something. But it doesn't have to. It didn't for
Yeah,
me. I just realized at a point when I was like, I'm doing all the things that are supposed to bring happiness, and they're not. There must be a better way. So I stopped repeating the same outcome orientedness.
mm, mm, yeah, I feel like, yeah, at this point, it'll be helpful to go through the 5 levels of awareness,
Mm,
and
mm,
they're so good because they're clear and distinct. And in level 1, you distill it down to the word "to," where you believe life is happening to you, entirely
yes.
convinced that, your misery is uniquely yours and it's characterized by strong victim mentality. But how do we move beyond the blind spots of this heavily conditioned state? Because we're unaware of being unaware.
Yeah, yeah. Great question. And that's a comment I get often, is a 5 level of awareness is not just another way to judge yourself, or others, right? But very quickly, when you start reading, you find that you have maybe a higher level awareness in one area of life, but then total blind spots over here, another area of stuff. It's a mix of things. And sometimes in some of these workshops, you see the wheel of life, which has all the different areas of life.
Mm,
And you want to bring awareness in the spiritual context to all of these wheels, spokes, so that your wheel rolls, because blindness in one area can really affect your life in another area. So that argument usually falls away very quickly when you realize. I get a lot of people saying they start reading at level 3, and then they find themselves flipping backwards. It's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I need to go back here. There's a few things I've missed. So it's a journey through your whole spectrum, the 360, self. And you can never, we always have to stay humble. We have to assume there's
yeah.
still, so as long as we're here, as long as we're human in Earth School, we have to assume there's still something to be learned.
Totally. And some aspects of our life, we could be level 1 and in others, like a level 4, right?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see this sometimes in gurus, teachers, where they have one part totally nailed down, and then they struggle in another area. Or you might be a wonderful husband or partner, but the finance uh, world is just not coming together for you. So there's it's meant to prompt you, and every chapter really has check boxes at the end, is like
Yes.
for you to reflect.
Yeah. The paradoxes and what to look for, the
Yeah,
traps. It's so good.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I
So level
collected those go ahead.
no, you go, please.
I was going to say I collected those paradoxes. It's just from observation for
Yeah.
years and years and years, and this was the book that finally it felt natural to drop them in there.
Yeah, it's definitely worth picking it up if you haven't heard of it already. And level two, you refer to as because, where you realize you are the creator of your reality. Things happen because of you. You no
Mm.
longer believe your truth is the one and only truth. There is a crack in the illusion of separateness. And so I love when you say you trust things are happening to help you, not to haunt you. You understand that life doesn't benefit when you're misaligned. And you already have talked about this a bit, but I'd love you to explain what that means to align yourself with, the laws of nature or with life.
Yeah, that's good. Sometimes I talk about natural law because it's just how
Mm,
things work. Even in you look at
yeah.
the tree and the storm clouds arrive, it doesn't complain. It'll bend to the winds and just kind of hunker down, little animals and all that. And it also has the wisdom to know that the sun will shine again and it'll be time to blossom. And that actually the winds strengthen its roots so they can be strong. Like the whole
Mm,
everything works, right? And so
yes.
you just kind of tune into that from a human perspective as well. And so when you get challenges, whenever you feel triggered in its most basic form, whenever you feel triggered, it's pointing to something that's unhealed, that needs love, usually some attention. And how much simpler could life be? Early on we think we're being triggered by somebody because they said something or something happened. We're kind of separate, and that's why we suffer so much. But when you can start to recognize, okay, what is this saying about me? Right? Then everything shifts. You can go through life. There were times I remember early on in my journey where I would go into a crowd of people, and in order to practice noticing my triggers, because nothing better than just standing, at Coachella amongst tens of thousands of people, and they look a certain way, they dress a certain way, they're behaving certain ways, and I was like, just let myself be triggered. Then I realized you don't have to forcefully go out and life brings you your triggers. so
Yes.
so yeah, so go out into the world thinking like, what can I learn today? What can I, even when I do private sessions or I do workshops or I run retreats, there's always a part of me, wasn't always like this, but now there's a part of me that's, what is the gift to me? What does this bring to
Mm,
me? And what does it say about me? This podcast, what is the gift to me? I'm not just dispersing, but receiving. So that's
yes.
important.
I think when people hear natural law, what about a tsunami? What about an earthquake? But it's like destruction is a part of natural law as well. It's
Yeah.
included in the design.
Oh, absolutely. Everything that dies becomes mulch and food
Yeah.
for fertilizer. Most of life isn't interested in like long, productive lives. It's the forces of life. I describe it as a geyser. It's just a giant geyser of life, and one out of 1,000 baby turtles makes it. 80 out of 100 pigeons don't make it through the first year. Like it's not interested necessarily in like a long, what we call productive or fruit life. It just the forces of creation are just super creative and in
Mm,
different shapes and sizes and just like constant creation. And the death of things, the leaving the form of things, is the food that then compels the next thing. In the same way that our own unconsciousness also drives us forward. It's the fuel for
yes.
our evolution, is to have blind
Yes.
spots, is to make mistakes. It's to like, what's a mistake? It's learning. This is
Yes.
this is again stigmatized stuff from the way we grow up. But no, you learn. Sometimes
Yes.
people go, I should have known better back then. I made a decision. It didn't turn out the way I was at. Well, you know better now because you made a decision the way you did back then. It's rational that now you're wiser. So it's
Yes.
like just making a lot of these things are reminders. If you've been in the space, it's good to hear it maybe from a different voice, different perspective, but to be reminded that God's love really
Yes.
is evident in this entire design.
Yes, but and also because the nature of the mind is it includes forgetfulness. That's in there too.
Yes, 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 exactly.
And so with
Mm.
this idea of, trusting in life, essentially of surrendering to it, how do you explain what catches us when we let go? What are we trusting in and why is it so worthy of our
Mm.
trust?
Oh, wow, that's a good one.
Mm.
Well, what happens there is we more and more we're letting go of meaning. The inner work is to let go of the prescribed, the conditioned meaning of certain truths that we have, and as we work on these things and let these layers go, stuck feelings and stuck beliefs, limiting beliefs. We let go of meaning. And then ultimately the point comes when, initially that might be freeing, but it can get scary when you start to let go of who you think you are.
Mm.
Any therapist can attest to, working with their clients for years, and then they get to the doorstep of their healing when they can just have to take that one more step through, and they can release something, but they don't because it feels like a death, which it is.
Mm.
You're an old version of you is dying, and you haven't let that go. So, dark night of the soul, if you've heard of that experience,
Yeah.
that's more acute one. For most people, it's probably more stretched out over longer periods, lifetimes. But it's plummeting into meaninglessness, the assigned meaning, to then rebuild from there, like the phoenix arising from the ashes, to rebuild a new sense of
Yes.
self that isn't blind, that is your truth, that is doesn't need to believe. One of my favorite jokes is I have the solution. There's all this debate about the origins of the universe and the Big Bang and what started it all, and my answer is very simple: is let go of the need to know.
Mm. It's
That's
so
it.
hard though.
Yeah, yeah. But when you exude the need to know, the universe, being the mirror that it is, will keep giving you things you don't know. Like that's how it works. And now you're chasing more and more knowledge, and you get more and more things that you don't know, and it's like never ending. So at some point, you have to say stop, and it's okay to like figure things out, but you have to remember the backdrop.
Mm.
People like Einstein were brilliant at that. Brilliant
Yeah.
scientists that still maintain the connection to higher self.
Mm. I have to ask you then, is life inherently meaningful or do humans assign meaning?
Mm, well, both. So the initial levels is I'd say levels 1 through 3 are the assigned meaning. There's meaning in just being. That's the ultimate meaning, and has nothing to do
Mm.
with nothing that the mind can ever come up with. When you can learn to connect with the happening, be there for the unfolding, then there's no time, there's no limits, there's no um, everything's possible. There's no restrictions, and there's a sense of oneness, right? That's what
Mm.
that refers to. And that state is so meaningful in and of itself. There doesn't need to be anything else. The physical dimension with all the things we can achieve or chase or accomplish is so small compared to
Mm. It's the most beautiful answer.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, level 3, you use the word for. You see life never happens to you, nor does it happen because of you. It happens for you. And when you reconcile your subjective expectations with objective reality, you become a wiser and deeper person. So, how do you help people see through their subjective reality to touch, this glimpse of an objective experience of things as they
Yeah,
are?
yeah, fantastic. Just a simple example, um, a glass. If I spill my teacup, the objective reality of that is the cup uh, spills the liquid on the table, maybe it's dripping down on the floor,
Mm.
and that's about it. That's objective reality, and it's super simple. The story that we put on top of it is clumsy me. I can't trust myself, and like, oh, the expensive rug is now ruined, or this is all the noise. So when we can tune more and more and more using a simple example into the inherent simplicity of life, and that's the place we want to join and collaborate with, then we can start to tap into the simplicity of everything that happens around us. Another example I give at my retreats is, um, and it's funny because it's happened so many times. I have to mention it, where I talk about again spilling something, maybe a glass of wine, clothes are ruined or whatever. People on their flight back report back to me all the time that they spilled their glass of wine on the plane, but they didn't react anymore. They was like, okay, get
Yeah.
a rag, mop it up, and I have a stain on my whatever, and that's
And that
that's the
feels
way
like
it
a
is. And
miracle. It didn't have to be a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
dramatic soap opera thing.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that brings changes into relationships and whoever they're
Mm.
traveling with. They now see you calm and you're not judging yourself or anything. And it's because it's so hard what we're doing to live in this constant judgmental, self-critical state, to judge
Mm.
everything that happens, to want what has already happened to be different, which is completely illogical. You know, so we work so hard to keep ourselves in this separate state. So if we just relent a little bit, then it just starts to flow very naturally, very easily. One of my favorite quotes about myself, I'm sorry to do that, but
No,
is
please.
our job is not to make ourselves happy. Our job is not to make ourselves unhappy.
Mm,
Our natural state is high vibrating, it's flow, it's allowing, it's surrender, it's because that's where we want to be. And it's just by attaching ourselves, believing our thoughts, the stories, the personal narrative, that's what weighs us down. So
mm,
again, we don't have to get to somewhere. We just have to let go of the stuff, the weights.
yeah, so good. And then we get to level 4.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in level 4, you say when you're no longer getting in your own way, life starts to flow through you. So this is the layer of through. And, this concept of getting out of our own way, I feel like it's a concept most people are probably familiar with. But again, to action it, it's a whole other story. And most of the time, we don't even realize we are still the one thing standing in the way of where we are in any given moment and where we want to be.
Yeah. Great point. The attachment, the tentacles of the
Mm,
self. I don't use ego. I think that's just we wind up resenting something within ourselves. It's not ego. Is just believing your thoughts. So
mm,
I just say self. Um, it runs so deep you can't know. And when you take power back from the mind, it starts to really become noticeable. It'll throw the kitchen sink at you in terms of like, no, I want to stay in the driver's seat. I'm used to having the power here, as noisy as it is. So
mm,
that takes some time to, again, the nervous system. It won't flip a switch overnight. It takes some time to calm it down and then let those nervous endings just fray. So it is a gradual process, and the most important, the fastest way through it is the acceptance piece, to feel your feelings, because that's what we're reacting to, not the environment.
yes.
Always we're just reacting.
Yeah. And it feels like, getting out of your own way is another way of saying freeing yourself from identification with your mind, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. And now, actually, there's one more thing I want to talk about in level 4.
Sure.
You say this is when we find more opportunities to step into our power and our inner voice becomes loud and clear. I'd love to hear you speak about what it means to be in your power. And also, we have so many voices in our head. How do we know which one is ours?
Yeah. I kind of learned this the hard way. I was in LA for 25 years as a UX designer, media agency owner, and working with the advertising agencies. And as a consultant, I had accepted so much work, so many projects that I was starting to have panic attacks. And just in anticipation of like the next meeting, what do I have to be prepared for, this and that. And so I felt the onset of another panic attack, and I pulled over. And that's when, thankfully, something in me, by grace, let go. It stopped trying to control and predict everything that's going to happen. And to my great surprise, so much energy, so much space started to open up. Like I could take on, 3 times as much work if I wanted to. It's we really bog ourselves down with our self-imposed, and that's not mean to blame oneself. It means to become aware that the weight that we carry is generated by ourselves, and
Mm.
that our natural state is to be light. So from there, my practice and my writings and dedication to meditation improved, and again, it's a journey.
Yeah, yeah, and it's your own experience that led you to all these realizations, which is why you're so versed in sharing them in a way that resonates for people.
Yeah, yeah. Unlike many, I didn't have a guru or one person. I have many different influences, but
Interesting, yeah.
yeah, I always just I wouldn't want to push my own evolution. Just allow life to shape you. It's there. It's perfectly timed. Divine timing is beyond anything we can ever think that we got it figured out. No, no, no. Just live your life. Learn
Yeah,
to feel your feelings, and everything that you need to learn will come to you. Everything that you need to let go of will rise. It's a perfect plan.
yeah, it's so beautiful. So we'll wrap up this level 5, and then I've got a final question. So level 5 is life isn't just flowing through you, it's happening as you. And, you say in this final level, there's no more attachments, no more resistance, and no more limiting beliefs. And you speak about the concept of meta awareness, and you also speak about love.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's who
Mm,
we are once you get deeper, deeper, and deeper at the core of it all, we're just The love of creation has created us. That's again going to what we said earlier. Life wants to create. It loves to
Yes.
create. And we don't do anything well unless we love doing it. So then our own love. So the greater forces of life, same thing. We're full of love, every cell. And by saying, I don't like myself, I don't want to be here, I need to be somebody else, think of the message that we're sending to our 7 trillion cells. No, acceptance, staying as I am. From there, we move forward in the most coordinated, most like healthy fashion. And it's okay when we take detours because we wanted to force it this way or that way. And those are
Yeah.
also part of what has to happen. But we could really let go of the need to steer.
Yeah.
Um, and level 5 is a little bit of a pure level 5 oneness state is we wouldn't be in our bodies anymore if that's what our
This is
frequency would be at.
transcendent
Yeah,
unity
it's so transcendent.
consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't be in our bodies. We have to limit our frequency just to be contained in our bodies. So it's a little bit of a hypothetical state towards the upper end of it. Um,
Yes. We live
but
most of our lives in level 1 and 3.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because if you look at you can look at it from a reincarnation standpoint, or you can look at it from a metaverse
Mm,
standpoint. But we spend most of our time in 1, 2, and 3, like 80% of our life cycle, incarnation cycle, and then at the tail end we accelerate like
mm.
pretty quickly. So that's why you have so few truly enlightened people, because they graduate out very quickly and then they go to I don't know where other dimensions. But this is Earth school. This is meant for primarily 1, 2, 3, and then getting to manifest not from self, because still level 3 is your manifestation powers are personal desire based.
Mm.
When you move into flow states and even level 5 oneness state, then you're just co-creator with source. It's coming through you,
Yeah.
and you don't want to control anything.
Yes. I'm so glad you wrote this book and, worked to articulate all of this so beautifully. It's so helpful for people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's very very kind of you to say. Thank you.
Of course. And my final question is, so many people talk about or think about self-work as having this, selfish flair or being self-orientated, or that it's for people who are privileged enough. But you say in your book that our vibration, being the energy that we emanate as individuals, is the main thing that we give to the world. It's the first thing others sense and feel in our presence. And therefore, any work to raise this in a sincere and real way is far from selfish.
Yeah, it's far from selfish. It's necessary. You can't help others until you've helped yourself, or heal others until you've healed yourself, or save others until you've saved yourself. Whatever you want to
Mm,
fill in the blank. So you have to have that authenticity of what you've been through that forced you to dig deep. And again, that's life's challenges. They're not here to be mean for some reason, but it's just to deepen us. And it's from these places that we deepen that we then give back. You naturally, once you've kind of resolved that area of stuckness and trauma, whatever it is, you start to open up, and people come to you seeking advice, and you even if you didn't want to, you still become a role model and kind of a beacon of light.
mm.
So it'll happen naturally, and so embrace that.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and sharing in the way that you have. When is the next book coming out? When can we?
September 1st.
Okay, amazing. And is there any other ways that people can connect with you? Do you have retreats coming up or?
Yeah, there's a big retreat happening in India at the end of January. Check my website, cirak.com,
Excellent.
Cirak.com. And you can find me on social media everywhere at Cirak Teachings.
Perfect. I'll include all of that in the show notes so people can jump on and have a look. Thank you so much again. Your teachings are brilliant, and just everyone online didn't get to get the transmission of your face, but you're just smiling the whole time. Your energy is so brilliant. So yeah, I've loved this. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
oh, likewise, Ash. Thank you so much.
Thank you.